You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
We now wander off the beaten path with an update from the Reefer Reporter.
Hello and good morning. It's Thursday, March the 23rd, 2022, and welcome to the Reefer Reporters as we are live here from the Legacy420.com news desk here on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook and YouTube pages, and we're podcasted afterwards at paceradio.net. Good morning, Glenn. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
Good. So how's been the last week been for you?
It's been up and down. Lots of work on my house and lots of cold and weird weather outside.
Yeah,
16 degrees one day and -3 or 5 the next day, So.
Exactly. Yeah, we've been getting some of that same stuff, I think we get it a little bit before you guys. It sort of heads your way. Yeah. It's but it's spring,
Well, it is some days.
Yeah. we got some minus temperatures coming up in the forecast, but overall it's much better than feeling like -40.
Oh yeah. Not too much, definitely.
That's right, exactly. Well, what do you say we get into the news for today?
Sure.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to get started off on a news story that is close to you, and that is that Cannabis NB pays off the $37 million startup loan.
The Provincial Cannabis Agency has now paid off approximately $37 million that had been provided by the New Brunswick Liquor Corporation, operating as New Brunswick or Alcohol New Brunswick Liquor ANBL. This loan helped cover the creation of Cannabis New Brunswick and operating expenses up until it first turned a profit in September 2019.
Interesting. Laurie Stickles, the president and CEO at Alcohol NB Liquor and Cannabis NB, says that with the loan now fully paid off as of February the 20th, she expects Cannabis NB to bring in $20 million for the province over the next year.
And although there were some concerns raised by some politicians in the province early on about the viability of the Provincial Cannabis Agency, Stickles says the agency has met its expectations and timeline to reach profitability and pay off the loan.
Yeah, she says it's a big point for CNB, and we're really excited that we will be able to hit it pretty much on target for when we thought we would be meeting it for some time now. And she also emphasized that hitting those targets was a team effort.
Yeah, and the team at Cannabis New Brunswick really has been focused since the beginning on being profitable, and then focused on really contributing as much back towards the loan as possible. Really, I can't say enough about the team. Their dedication is what's really allowed us to be here talking about that today.
Yeah, the province is also currently in the process of debating legislation that, if passed, will allow for several new retail stores to the private sector, as well as operating more pop-up stores that will help the province determine if other areas in the province have enough demand to warrant a new store. Well, Glenn, you're in New Brunswick. Do you have many private stores?
I have not seen one private store. I'm in Fredericton. I know there's private stores in Moncton. You have to be associated with a licensed producer. So at the production facilities where you're allowed to have your store, and that it's one thing that's holding it back, the private sector anyway. I think they should open it up like the Ontario model. I think it's a lot better model. If you go on the reserve here, there's lots and lots of cannabis stores, but off reserve, it's still a little hard to find.
It's still hard to find, eh?
Yeah.
Interesting. On with the story we go.
The province is also currently in the process of debating legislation that, if passed,
yeah, we did that. Next line down.
That's the one. Sorry about that. New Brunswick's also issuing farm gate retail licenses to cannabis producers. That's what I was talking about. Correct. Earlier this year, changes that will be solidified into the regulatory framework under regulations currently being debated in the House.
Yes. They say that It's a historic point for CNB and really solidifies that this is a profitable business. This will be profitable for the province, and now all the money we make, every penny we make, goes directly into the province, into their funds, so they can use that money for important services and programs. For us, it's just another milestone in our evolution and another way to show that this model does work, and we believe that the business has a long, profitable future ahead of it.
And the money is supposed to go straight back to fund programs and services.
Well, let's hope it does do that.
I believe it goes straight into general revenue, so I guess it's up to the government to dole out it. We'll see if it goes to anything good or not.
Well, that's my concern. Does it just go into a slush fund?
I think a lot of any tax money, it just goes into general revenue, and they dole out, whatever they want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, on to the next story. This one says that BC wants to keep John Doe's cash and cannabis.
The BC government wants to keep more than 270,000. Come on, it won't move. Sorry, my computer's slow here. 270,000 belonging to a mystery John Doe after a shipping mix-up led to the discovery of 100 kilograms of illicit cannabis.
So that's $270,000.
Yeah.
It all started last November the 5th when an Abbotsford company called police after receiving, in error, a large crate destined for the East Coast. Inside were garbage bags stuffed with dried cannabis.
And Abbotsford police contacted the shipping firm, Van Cam Freightways in Nanaimo, and learned that a customer named John had arranged for the crate to be sent to Newfoundland.
Van Cam inadvertently mislabeled the crate, and it was sent to the Abbotsford company. A statement of claim filed this month by the director of civil forfeiture says.
You think you'd get your address right, eh?
You think so, eh?
Yeah. Officers called John on a phone number that he had provided and left several voicemails. Needless to say, John didn't call back.
I wonder why. A week later, Van Camp staff contacted the Miami RCMP to advise that they had received a suspicious crate originating from Newfoundland to be held for customer pickup by John.
And the shipping company turned the crate over to the police. When it was opened November 20th, officers found several plastic bags in a small refrigerator freezer containing $271,000.
Whoa. The money was bundled or packaged in a manner not consistent with the standard banking practices, according to the director.
Sorry, that's funny. Neither police agency has yet been able to find the people involved in the shipment, the statement of claim said.
Yep. Yeah. The BC government agency said the cash should be forfeited as it is an instrument of unlawful activity.
And the crimes alleged included possession, distribution, and sales of cannabis in violation of the Federal Cannabis Act, as well as violations of the Provincial Cannabis Control and Licensing Act. It's funny that they ship the money with the cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. The director also
originally I thought it was they seized 270,000 in cannabis, but it was actual cash plus the
cash. Yes. Wow. Yeah. The director also claims that the people involved in the cannabis shipment allegedly possessed the proceeds of crime and failed to declare the taxable income. A manager at Van Camp's in Nanaimo declined to comment Monday, saying that he understood the criminal investigation is continuing.
And Paul Walker, who's an Abbotsford police constable, said their probe has been completed. No criminal charges will be coming out from our end. They provided details to our investigation back to Nanaimo RCMP, who are investigating on their end as well.
Yeah, the RCMP and Constable Gary O'Brien confirmed Monday that the detachment's investigation remains ongoing. So there you go.
Yeah.
Someone missing. You know anybody who's missing $270,000?
No, nobody at all. I've never misplaced that amount of money.
No, really, especially to send it to somebody.
I just find it weird they sent it with the cannabis. Like, why wouldn't there be two packages, one full of money?
Yeah, and like I don't know, like, can you do transactions that way? Just send the cash through the mail, or is that supposed to be claimed when
I
it's
guess
over
it's you could send
$10,000?
it. I guess you could send it through the mail, considering he sent it in a crate with marijuana, with cannabis.
Yeah, he was using a shipping company.
Yeah.
It wasn't technically Canada Post.
No.
No. So
Strange one.
strange one. Strange one for sure. All right. Here's the story that some people may find interesting, and that is that Cantab to offer medical cannabis education to over 600 Ontario pharmacies. That's
The
just about
producer, which specializes in hard pill cannabinoid formulations, said Wednesday it signed an agreement with Farm United, a network of independent pharmacy owners. The detail involves expanding cannabis access to medical cannabis programs, or expanding access to medical cannabis programs. Services such as well as teaching people how to access Cantab products via their website. I'm not really familiar with Cantab. Are you, Al?
No, I've never heard of them. No, never heard of them.
So are these? I'm wondering, are these really? Is this cannabis or is this a chemical?
Well, we'll find out. Cantab sells THC and CBD formulations on the medical and recreational markets and holds a processing and sales license for medical cannabis as well as a research license.
On Farm United co-CEO Fatty Fairs says the agreement is consistent with his company's goal of allowing independent pharmacies to thrive in a highly competitive and changing market.
Yeah, they say that this agreement will help keep our network of pharmacies at the leading edge of medical cannabis from an educational and professional development perspective.
And this important relationship with a large network of highly respected pharmacists is a testament and recognition of the importance of the health benefits of medical cannabis, as well as Cantab's key role in delivering true pharmaceutical grade THC and CBD to those medical patients in a trusted and precise dosage format. Cantab CEO Larry Latowski says.
Yeah, Latowski says that many of the pharmacies in the network are either in proximity or often affiliated with pain clinics and provide necessary information required to access medical cannabis and the Cantab offerings.
And the affiliation will extend and leverage their reach to a wider population, he continues, while adding a significant number of patients to Cantab's medical portal.
Yeah, the company also notes it's received approval from the government of Saskatchewan to start selling Cantab products in the wholesale and provincial store networks. And in November, the company received its medical sales license from Health Canada.
And the company recently announced a partnership with the leader of the Shawanaga First Nation and an Indigenous-owned indoor farming company to increase access to medical cannabis in hopes of mitigating the ongoing opioid crisis.
Yeah, there you go. The training pharmacists on cannabis is a good thing because of the fact that people are using cannabis as well as pharmaceutical drugs, and people have questions, so they should be able to get their answers.
If they're allowed to answer, it would be a great thing.
Yeah, well, pharmacists would be.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Correct. Now, this isn't something that's new because I know that years ago that other pharmacies were receiving training. I know a lady who works at a pharmacy in Campbellford, or was working in Campbellford at a pharmacy. She's working at a different one now. And she was sent out for training or received training on the cannabis end of things.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did they ever wind up selling it there?
No, they actually, what they end up doing in Campbellford is they have a signing clinic now in that pharmacy. The last I was in it, they had a signing clinic there. And people could get their signature there, and then they have to order it like normal. But I wouldn't doubt if that pharmacy actually did what they did in Ottawa, and that is get a license for a pharmacy to actually be able to sell it.
Wow, that would be a good thing.
Shoppers Drug Mart, a big company like that, they they sell cannabis. They have a license to do so, and why wouldn't they want to train their pharmacists? So that's what they've been doing for the years.
Well, I think once they made it legal, it kind of changed the way people looked at it, and I think it's more acceptable now than it was before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure. All right. On to our next story. Headline says 2 recent break-ins of cannabis stores in Ontario. This is
And
never.
the OPP are investigating 2 similar break-ins at cannabis stores this week. Police in Hamilton say that around 2:50 in the morning on March 15th, 3 suspects allegedly approached the store of Upper Middle Road and smashed the glass in the front door, with 2 of the individuals gaining entry to the business while a third waited in the car.
The two intruders then apparently smashed glass display cases, making off with cannabis products before fleeing the area. No suspects or vehicle descriptions are available, they say.
And it's the second early morning break-in of a retail cannabis location in Ontario. This time in Guelph took at around 4:50 a.m. on Thursday, March 17th. Witnesses called police and reported 3 people in a vehicle at the business near the intersection of Silver Creek Parkway North and Willow Road.
Now, similar to the robbery 2 days prior, 2 of the individuals smashed the glass door while the third remained in the vehicle. Police say they fled in the vehicle after stealing approximately $2,000 worth of product.
And police are continuing. $2,000, that's it?
That's what I'm thinking. Like, what? Really? Is that all?
Police are continuing to investigate both break-ins. Reports from speaking to business owners in the area say both locations belong to Canna Cabana, a chain retailers with at least 8 locations in Ontario. Do you know those people, Canna Cabana?
Yeah, I've seen the stores.
Okay.
Yeah. Omar Khan, the senior vice president of corporate and public affairs at High Tide, the company that owns Canna Cabana and retail chain, was unable to speak about any specific issues due to ongoing investigations.
And he points out that the increase in these types of crime is not just at cannabis stores, but in overall increase in robberies of many different types of stores, such as pharmacies, liquor stores, convenience stores, gas stations. Increases began around the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, and I can understand that.
I completely agree. Like, we've had our local gas station 2 years ago. Our local gas station was robbed.
Well, they're warning people in my area that people are robbing their gas cans out of their garages now.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
It's that expensive.
That expensive. Yeah, exactly. I was held up.
Oh, really?
Point. Yeah, I worked at a gas station, and I had a guy walk in and held me up, held a gun right to my head.
Wow, I didn't know that. How long ago was that?
Back in 1980.
Wow.
Yeah, held it to my head, and then he hit me on the top of the head with the gun and told me to get down when he left.
And you got down?
Yeah, he left.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the story goes on and on.
Oh, that must have been a scary experience, though.
Yes, exactly. And go ahead.
Sorry. However, he points out that the increase in these types of crime is not. Oh, sorry. I did that again. Yeah. Based on our own experience, but also in talking with other retailers and various police services across the country, it's clear there has been a marked increase in the robbery attempts at cannabis stores really since the onset of the pandemic. Again, same thing.
Yeah, basically, yeah. One of the issues High Tide and others in the cannabis industry says cannabis stores makes cannabis stores a tempting target for break-ins and robberies is the window coverings that many provinces still require. He says that, which is Khan, he says that we've identified one regulatory issue that we think makes us, as cannabis retailers, particularly enticing targets, and that's the window covering requirements. And I have to completely agree with the guy.
Oh, yeah. If you can't see people are in there robbing them, then how are you going to know?
Exactly.
If you're looking to rob a store, one of your options has window coverings, the same thing, which means nobody outside the store can see what's going on. You can see how that would make it more enticing target to others.
That's right. Yeah. And on March the 4th, Toronto police announced that they had arrested 3 men connected to break-ins at multiple cannabis stores in the northeast end of the city. And as you can see, there's the pictures of what they got out of that raid.
Yeah, that looks like a lot more than the 2,000 they were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's right.
Robbers of cannabis stores have occurred sporadically over the years now across Canada. In October, a cannabis store in Toronto was burgled with numerous cannabis products stolen, prompting Toronto police to put out an alert.
Yeah, Alberta, they have also seen a handful of cannabis store robberies and burglaries. And in September, a Calgary cannabis store was robbed. in December of 2020 and in 2021. Two other Calgary area cannabis retailers were robbed. Just so you know, I don't know if you saw the robbery attempt that was on Saturday night. It was on late night.
I didn't see it.
It wasn't on this Saturday night. It was a couple of years ago.
Okay.
But there was a robbery at a store on the Reserve, and the guy behind the counter, he grabbed a bong and went at the robber with the bong, swinging
that's
at
a good
him.
weapon.
Oh yeah, they were showing the security footage on the late night shows on the TV, saying this is how you protect your store. And there he was. He was swinging a bong at the guy.
A bong bat.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna have to look that one up. In June of last year, another cannabis store in Calgary was robbed at gunpoint by 4 men. In February, a man allegedly assaulted an employee and robbed a BC cannabis store in Oliver, BC.
Yeah, exactly. Robberies at cannabis stores are not limited to legal retailers. In BC, in early 2020, a masked man robbed an unlicensed cannabis store. And in 2016, a Vancouver cannabis delivery was robbed at gunpoint. So, it has happened over the years. There's no doubt about that.
I think if you have anything of value, someone is going to come forward eventually.
Yeah, I can see that. And,
it's the same with any other store. Jewelry stores, they rob because there's jewelry in them. It's human nature, I think.
And when you're reading the article and you turn around and it says that they smashed the front door and they went in and they smashed a bunch of the cabinets and grabbed the stuff out of the product out of the cabinets, it even sounds like a jewelry store robbery.
It actually does, yeah.
So yeah. All right, last story before we go to a break. And this one says the New Jersey prepares to launch a $2 billion recreational cannabis market.
New Jersey's recreational cannabis market is gearing up to launch within weeks and is poised to become one of the largest on the East Coast, with annual sales projected to top $2 billion within a few years.
The state is positioned to beat rival New York to the punch and to match, if not exceed, Massachusetts in annual adult use sales.
But like most markets, industry officials are concerned about whether supply will be adequate to meet demand, at least in the early stages. New Jersey's adult use market, approved by voters in November 2020, is expected to launch with only a handful or so of the state's existing medical cannabis operators. So I don't understand why they do this. Everywhere they legalize it or decriminalize it, they never allow enough people to grow it.
Yeah, I know, I know, but there is one thing that I really liked in that last line, and that has to do that the existing operators. We're here in Canada. We went around and we arrested the operators.
Yes, we did. Chased them right out of business. And I like the ones that we had here in Fredericton a lot better than any of the cannabis New Brunswicks I've ever been into.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So, they're inviting them into the system.
Yeah, that is good. I like that part.
Yeah, exactly. All right. The start of the recreational cannabis sales also come as social equity applications are struggling to develop their business know-how, raise funds, and secure real estate. Existing medical cannabis operators might get as much as an 18-month head start on some new cannabis businesses, an industry expert says.
And the recreational marijuana law, I hate marijuana. I like that cannabis. I get confused when I'm reading marijuana and trying to say cannabis at the same time.
You get used to it.
Yeah, the recreational cannabis law implementing the voter initiative called for sales to begin February 22nd, 22. But the state ignored that deadline, saying it was too early. Of course.
Oh, wow.
It's always too early. It's always too
early. So that was like 2 years, right? It was too early. Yeah. Governor Phil Murphy then hinted in late February that the market could launch within weeks. And state regulators indicated recently that they were nearly finished renewing applications by 5 current medical cannabis operators.
Industry officials say that the state's Cannabis Regulatory Commission could take up and approve those applications at its March 24th meeting. But it's unclear how quickly the sales would then be allowed to begin.
That's today.
Yeah.
According to Rob DePassa, co-chair of the cannabis law practice at Colt Schultz in New Jersey, he says we could have only 5 operators trying to meet the initial demand of the entire state. It's almost naive to think we aren't going to run into some issues. 5 operators for the whole state?
Yeah, that sounds a little small to me. That's what they were saying originally. And that's like every place it starts, every place it's legalized, it seems to be the same issues.
Yeah.
So with that, while that's the case with other new adult use markets as well, the New Jersey recreational cannabis law included provisions intended to prevent negative fallout for the state's roughly 120,000 MMJ patients.
Yeah, MJ Biz Daily projects that New Jersey recreational cannabis sales will ramp up from $625 million to $775 million in 2022 to more than $2 billion by the year 2025 or 2026.
Yeah. And medical cannabis sales, meanwhile, are expected to peak by 2023 and then begin declining, has been the trend in most adult use states.
I wonder why the medical end declines.
I don't know. That sounds funny to me. Or maybe it's just people that are on medical that move out of the medical and into the recreational, according to the government.
Yeah, maybe.
They're still medicating. They're just not doing it through the channels they were before.
Yeah. Maybe the recreational store is closer.
Yeah.
Or
better selections.
Yeah, maybe. Existing medical cannabis operators have maintained since November 2021 that they are ready to sell recreational products. But New Jersey regulators resisted, voicing skepticism the state's medical cannabis industry could adequately serve both the medical market and the adult use one.
And New Jersey has only 11 licensed medical marijuana businesses operating in 23 dispensaries, according to state data. In recent months, regulators approved an additional 4 vertically integrated medical cannabis licenses, 10 cultivation permits, and 30 dispensary licenses to support the MMJ market.
Yeah, but they're not operating yet, so that doesn't help.
No,
right?
And why didn't they license them a long time ago? They knew this was going to happen.
Yes, exactly. Interesting, Murphy didn't mention the new recreational market industry in his budget address last week. The Absbury Park Press, meanwhile, reported that 8 medical marijuana companies have applied to the state's Cannabis Regulatory Commission for approval to begin adult use sales.
And Jeff Brown, the commission's executive director, told the newspaper that 5 of those applications were considered complete and are in substantive review. Those 5 haven't been publicly identified, but will be if they're considered at the commission. Yeah,
they're allowed to have 3 dispensaries each, so that between them will have like 15 stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still doesn't sound like enough for New Jersey.
It doesn't, does it? No, I know. That's what I'm thinking too. So, well, that's that story. Let's, what do you say? Break time?
Sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 more stories left up there on the tab. So let's take a medication break, which means everybody else is going to hear or see from our sponsors. Glenn and I will be right back after the break. You're watching the Reefer Reporters. We are live here on Facebook and YouTube, and or maybe you're listening to the podcast afterwards at paceradio.net. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, we're back. Glenn and I are back from a medication break, and we are live here on our Facebook and YouTube pages and podcasts afterwards at paceradio.net. Well, Glenn, we've got a few more stories to cover.
We do.
I had that midway started when the commercial ended, so I went, better get that finished. Okay, well, here we go. First story after the break. First cannabis social equity consumption lounge licensed in Denver. Excellent.
Yep. Denver approved the city's first social equity license for a marijuana consumption lounge. A move that could lead to a boost in sales for the market as people have more places to consume.
Ah, nice. Terra Lounge, located in the city's downtown, received what regulators call a marijuana hospitality establishment permit. The Denver Gazette reported, so the business is clear to open for people to legally consume cannabis in public.
Is that indoors? That's just outdoors?
I'm going to say it's indoors, but read on, we'll find out.
Another Denver business, the Coffee Joint, has previously allowed cannabis consumption on its premises, but patrons could smoke only outdoors. The business was grandfathered in under the new program.
Yeah, that one says it was outdoors.
Yeah.
The city revamped its hospitality business rules while overhauling the cannabis program regulations. Under Denver's regulations, only qualified social equity applicants are eligible to apply for hospitality establishment permits for the first 6 years of the program.
And a spokesman for the city's marijuana enforcement division told the Denver Gazette that the city had received 2 more social equity applications for consumption lounges.
So two
That's
more.
Great.
Yes, exactly.
I wish we had places here that we could go.
Yeah, same here. I completely agree with you. Well, we had a bunch here in Ontario, and as soon as they legalized cannabis, we lost our lounges.
I love them. We did that lounge tour, and I have probably never had more fun in a bar or any other kind of situation than doing that. It was great.
Yeah, it was. It was a really good time. The lounges were always good. They had entertainment going on at them. They didn't need the police to come to them to break up any disruptions or anything like that. They were good.
They were safe and mostly clean and well cared for by people who cared about other people. So
exactly, self-regulated. Ventilation, stuff like that, bathrooms, everything. It was So they were good. Got to bring them back. Just keep working on it. That's all we got to do. Chip a little brick out of that wall every time until we get them open. So, alrighty, on to our next story. And this one comes to us from the Growth Op, and it says sting operation busts medical student selling cannabis oil.
I got to enter my birth date to be able to get into this thing.
Oh, do you? Okay, well, I'll go along here. A medical student in the Philippines got caught prescribing early when the authorities busted him with cannabis oil, a breach that could prompt a lengthy prison sentence.
Almost
the student scheme came undone during a bust operation in Quezon City by members of the National Bureau of Investigation. Did you find the story, Glenn?
Yep, confirming the report. Is that the one?
Right. No,
NBI
about that.
agent undertook a sting. Oh.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. The student scheme came undone during a buy-bust operation in Quezon City by members of the National Bureau of Investigation.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep reading.
Wow. The NBI had earlier received information that the student was selling illegal drugs, namely cannabis oil, online as medicine for cancer, epilepsy, pain release, and other diseases, and as an additive for e-cigarette vape juice. NBI officer in charge, Director Eric Distor, says in a statement from the agency.
Confirming the report, the NBI agents undertook a stinger operation on May 9th. The fake buy led to the student's arrest at a coffee shop. At the time, officers confiscated 27 milliliters of cannabis oil, a 9mm pistol, and several pieces of ammunition, notes the NBI statement. Lab analysts confirmed the products tested positive for THC. 27 milliliters.
Yeah, that's
right. So that'd be like 6 jars of oil because it's 5 grams in a jar.
Yep.
So it's like 6 jars of oil.
Wow. Although the accused has a valid license for the gun, he failed to present a certificate indicating he was exempt from the gun ban.
Yeah.
That's a weird one. Over the course of the investigation, Dista reports that the man admitted to being a medical student intern, but not a licensed physician.
Yeah. The student was arrested and appeared at a hearing on March the 10th. He has been arrested and charged under the Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act of 2002.
The act states that imprisonment of 12 to 20 years plus a fine is possible, breaching Section 5 of the Act. The penalty shall be imposed upon any person who, unless authorized by law, shall sell, trade, administer, dispense, deliver, give away to another, distribute, dispatch, in transit, or transport any controlled precursor and essential chemical, or shall act as a broker in such transactions. That's insane language for that means almost anything you carry that's chemical, you could get 12 to 20 years for.
And this guy's looking at 12 to 20 years for 5 jars of oil.
Yeah,
exactly.
Very excessive.
There are reports that the Philippines is among the strictest countries for using or supplying cannabis. The others in the top 5 include Singapore, United Arab Emirates, Malaysia, and Turkey. And
in the summer of 2020, a visitor to Dubai busted for trying to smuggle about 6 kilograms of cannabis into the country has been sentenced to a decade in prison. Wow.
Yeah, that same summer, a 22-year-old man was sentenced to 27 years in jail and 24 strokes of the cane after being convicted of cannabis trafficking. He pleaded guilty to 2 reduced charges, each of trafficking and possession of at least 499 grams of cannabis. Over that amount, that would mean a person faces a mandatory death sentence. 500 grams of cannabis. That is like a pound of cannabis.
And it's cannabis you're talking about. They're going to kill people for having cannabis.
They're killing people for cannabis.
Insane.
Death penalty for a pound.
Yeah. Absolutely insane.
People should.
I know you have no words. I have no words for that. I don't even know what to say about that.
Yeah, just crazy. People being killed because of cannabis.
Yeah.
Pound. In a legal setting at that.
It's so strange. I don't understand it.
Yeah. People are dying, but yet here in our next report, it says that medical cannabis may reduce opioid use for chronic low back pain.
Access to medical cannabis may reduce opioid use for patients with chronic low back pain. I can attest to that. I have low back pain daily.
There you go.
When I medicate, I definitely feel better for at least 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, as of ALS, is a doctor, president of the Rothman Opioid Foundation and professor of orthopedic surgery, says that the extent of the patients who went from taking opioids to manage chronic pain to no longer requiring opioids at all surprised us. We anticipated seeing some decrease in usage, but we were surprised by both the extent of the decrease in usage and the number of patients who already voluntarily discontinued using their opiates when they received medical cannabis.
Well, I can tell you, medical cannabis is a lot better than opioids. I mean, for you, even the way you feel, everything, it's not even close to the same thing.
Yeah. And I've had my Crohn's for 20 years. The only time I've ever had a prescription for an opiate drug was when I've been hospitalized. I've never had an opiate drug prescription while I've been out of the hospital. I've just been using cannabis to deal with everything. As far as
I've had lots of prescriptions for it before I was using cannabis medically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, cannabis works a lot better. Now, maybe it doesn't numb you like you're completely doped out.
Yes.
But it makes it manageable.
Yes, exactly. I agree there with you 100%. I was glad that, I had a choice because I didn't want to become a stat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being able to do that is great. So, all righty. To continue on, it says, unless it's your turn. Go ahead.
Using a prescription drug monitoring program system for patients with chronic musculoskeletal pain, non-cancer back pain, Ilias and colleagues compared average morphite milligram equivalents per day to opioid prescriptions filled within 6 months prior to access to medical cannabis and opioid prescriptions filled after obtaining access to medical cannabis. Researchers collected patient demographic information as well as VAS back pain score, numeric back pain intensity, numeric back pain frequency, VAS right leg pain score, VAS left leg pain score, numeric leg pain frequency, numeric leg pain intensity, and Auschwitz Disability Index scores.
Wow. That's a long list of things that they checked.
Definitely.
Yeah, results presented at the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons annual meeting showed patients experienced a significant decrease in overall average morphine milligram equivalents per day from 15.1 to 11 after receiving a medical cannabis prescription. Researchers found that 38.7% of patients dropped to 0 morphine milligram equivalents per day.
So almost 40% dropped to none.
Yeah.
That's a great result. I love that.
And don't forget, people are getting killed for this.
Yeah. That's the last story. People die for it. In this story, it saves people.
Yeah.
Exactly. Morphine milligram equivalents per day significantly decreased from 3.5 to 2.1 in patients who started with less than 15 morphine milligram equivalents per day, and from 44.9 to 33.9 in patients who started with greater than 15 morphine milligrams a day. That's a lot for people who were taking a lot of morphine. Yeah,
that's right.
And prior to receiving their medical cannabis prescription, according to the results, researchers noted that 48.5% and 13.5% of patients who received less than 15 milligrams and greater than 15 milligram morphine equivalents per day dropped to a morphine milligram equivalents per day, respectively.
There you go.
Complicated.
Yeah, but it's good to see that it was able to take those people off of the cannabis was able to take those people off of the morphine.
Yeah.
Results also show improvements in patient pain intensity, frequency, and daily function. at 3, 6, and 9 months post medical cannabis certification compared with baseline. Although patients who use a single medical cannabis administration route had an insufficient decrease in morphine milligram equivalents per day from 20 to 15, researchers found a significant decrease in morphine milligram equivalents per day from 13 to 9 among patients who use 2 or more medical cannabis administration routes. So it'd be like eating and smoking.
Yeah. We're early on in our understanding of medical cannabis, but it could become an important tool in the management of chronic pain conditions or in orthopedics going forward to improve patient outcomes, to decrease pain, and also decrease our broader societal reliance on opioids, Ilyas said. We've been saying this for years.
Oh, yes. Big
and
time.
now they're just doing studies. If they would have been able to do these 20 years ago, there would have been a lot more people saved.
Yes, I completely agree. If they had done them before or listened to the patients that were saying that, instead of saying, oh, that's just anecdotal.
That's what they said for years, anecdotal.
Anecdotal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of doing that, they should have, you know, maybe it's news. Like when you get a prescription from your doctor, they usually, you know, say to let them know how it works. You know, if there's a problem, give us a call. We'll change it. Well, you know, cannabis. You give them prescription cannabis. You ask them 2 weeks later or so. You know, how does it work?
I went to my doctor before I met you in Hastings, and I was told he doesn't prescribe it because it's immoral.
Immoral.
That's what I was told. He doesn't do abortions, and he doesn't prescribe marijuana because it's immoral.
Immoral.
That was about 15 years ago, somewhere around there, 16 years ago.
Yeah. Be about then. It's I know my family doctor said no in the beginning, and his reasoning was because he couldn't guarantee consistency from one plant to the next, like you can with a pill. Because
I can understand a doctor's reasoning that way. I just can't understand it being compared to an abortion.
No, I know.
You know, as immoral, it's a weird thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's wrong. Yeah. All righty. Talking about some medical stuff. Here we go on for another medical end of stories, I could say. That's from the Fresh Toast. People with these disorders may be more likely to overuse cannabis, according to a study.
One of marijuana's most common medical uses is to provide relief for conditions like depression, anxiety, but a new study suggests that these type of consumers are more likely to overuse cannabis within a short span of time, leading to cannabis use disorder and poor relief from the initial symptoms they were treating.
Yeah, the study was published in the JAMA Network Open, followed over 200 adult patients in Boston who were looking for their medical cannabis cards. They were divided into two groups, one who was given their medical cannabis cards immediately, and another who had to wait 12 weeks to get them.
And the study shows that those who obtained their medical cannabis card immediately more were likely to develop cannabis use disorder, a condition where people depend on the drug to feel better. When using marijuana for anxiety or depression, their risk of cannabis use disorder increased by 20%.
Yeah, it's because they feel better. That's
what do you think of cannabis use disorder?
CUD. Yeah, that's they call that CUD. I've seen some reflected to the fact of people vomiting, and then I guess they say that cannabis use disorder is basically the addiction of cannabis.
Oh, I don't know how you can. I mean, am I addicted to cannabis because I use it daily?
Because you're prescribed it. Yeah. Are you addicted? Like opiates, obviously there's an addiction to there where it's been proven, and you know people are dying from it. But when it comes to cannabis addiction, like you know, there are people who have issues with cannabis. Cannabis isn't for everybody, but either are cheeseburgers.
Yeah, true.
You know, I can't eat a cheeseburger.
Yeah, my wife doesn't eat meat or cheese, so I understand that.
Yeah. So I don't know. So yeah, but like I'm on a drug that I have to take intravenously for my Crohn's. I have to do every 2 months. Do I have an intravenous drug problem because I have to go in and get a drug administered through an IV? No, I don't have that kind of issue. So just because you're a patient who's prescribed cannabis doesn't mean you're gonna end up you're addicted to it. You're taking your medicine as prescribed.
Yeah, I have stopped in periods of my life, and I've never had a problem stopping.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that my pain and my other problems come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I've stopped going to the hospital. Have to go somewhere to deal with things because obviously cannabis isn't consumed everywhere.
Yeah.
Where you go, and yeah. So
I had a really bad flu a month or two back, and I didn't smoke anything for 7-8 days. I never had a problem at all.
never
Other
went
than I
in
was sick.
Never. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah. So let's continue with the story. See what they say.
Other findings made by researchers include the fact that those who obtain their medical. Sorry, I just read that one again.
Yeah.
Our study underscores the need to better decision making about whether to begin to use cannabis for specific medical complaints, particularly mood and anxiety disorders, which are associated with an increased risk of cannabis use disorder, said lead Jody Gilman. I also think that if you have anxiety disorders, there is an increased risk of anything that makes you feel better, overusing it.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Some people say, well, it was someone from the U.S. was up in BC, and they said something about cannabis, and just because it makes you feel good, you should be taking prescription drugs instead. Well, when you take prescription drugs, the idea is that you don't feel your pain, so you feel better. And he was slamming cannabis for doing that. It just didn't make sense. And he was raising up the opiate drugs for being, pharmaceutical drugs as being the proper way.
It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me either at the time. This was years ago. So yeah. So there you go. I think we're done that story, eh?
Yep.
All righty. Well, let's see what happens. I know that Treating Yourself years ago, they did a researched article on depression and cannabis, and it was a positive outcome. And that article, we didn't get into it, is that down at the bottom. It did say that there has been studies and results that say that there is a positive end of cannabis to people with anxiety as well as depression.
I'm sure it's like a lot of other things. It works for some people for some things, and it works for other people for other things.
Exactly. Yeah. Gotta completely agree with you there. All righty, on to our last story of the day. And this one says, how magic mushrooms could follow in the footsteps of cannabis. What do you think, Glenn? Just off that
I think they're probably right. I've been reading about a little bit about magic mushrooms, and they seem to have some positive effects on people. I don't know enough about it to state exactly what they are, but I think it's a positive move anyway.
Yeah, and I could see how, patients, like with cannabis, and patients spoke up.
Yeah.
And I could see where people who are using magic mushrooms or psilocybin as medical benefits speaking up. And that, as they speak up and more people try it and more people see the benefits, more people are going to try it. And that's the same thing that happened to cannabis.
Yeah.
And then it gets involved in the government, right?
And then someone actually does some real studies instead of just anecdotal.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
Turns out marijuana really is a gateway drug for America's state houses anyway. The movement to decriminalize or legalize psychedelic substances such as magic mushrooms is being driven by the same playbook that helped Americans not only destigmatize, but politically embrace cannabis over the past decade. And much like the changing attitude toward marijuana use, nascent research and personal stories, particularly from military veterans, are convincing some lawmakers to rethink long-standing prohibitions on these drugs.
What was something of a taboo issue half a decade ago is now the subject of bills from both Republicans and Democrats in more than a dozen states. They range from proposals to study the medical benefits of psychedelics to bills that would allow adults to consume such drugs under supervision.
And Senator Jesse Solomon, who's a Democratic from Washington, has gone viral and sparked an interest nationwide. He's sponsoring a bill that would allow cyclobin to use among adults over the age of 21 under supervision. I don't know quite what that means, under supervision. I just didn't know where there were so many like-minded people on this.
Under supervision, I would say doctor prescribed.
Okay, but I don't know if they know how much to prescribe for that yet. Like I don't know much about it.
Oh, I agree. They probably don't have a clue because the research hasn't been there.
Yeah.
As far as, sort of like the cannabis end, we don't want to touch that.
The cannabis end I knew a lot more about. I mean, because I had personal experience with it.
Correct.
But the mushrooms, I mean, other than a couple experiments when I was young, no experience at all.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, check out last night's Pace Radio show. The Mushroom Dispensary of Canada was on with Dana Larson, and he gave out his address and email addresses and all that stuff, so you can order some.
Well, maybe I will.
There you go. All right, keep going.
Oregon led the nation when voters approved a ballot measure in 2020 to legalize and regulate psilocybin therapy, alongside other decriminalizing drug possession more broadly. Voters in cities such as Denver, Oakland, Washington, D.C. have also pulled back on enforcing laws against magic mushrooms and other plants that contain psychedelic compounds. Now these ideas have spread to a politically disparate collection of states such as Utah, Missouri, Connecticut, New Jersey, Texas, and California. And there is some Republican states in there.
There is. And
that's a positive outlook, I think.
I think this sort of reminds me of the moment of like when you went to the vapor lounges the first time and went, wow, look at all this, right?
Yeah.
And they, like you said, you haven't got much experience in the mushroom ends of things, but now look at all these places that, would you ever have thought back then that you'd be reading a story about how states are legalizing psychedelic drugs? And
I remember growing up thinking marijuana would never be legal, hoping it would, but it would never be legal. It was so far away.
Yeah, it was. And now look how quickly this has jumped on. And people are discussing it. So the newfound enthusiasm for loosening restrictions on psychedelics is yet to gain much traction with federal policymakers, either in Congress or the executive branch. Like cannabis, most psychedelics, including psilocybin, LSD, and MDMA, are classified as Schedule I narcotics under the Controlled Substances Act, meaning they're deemed to be highly addictive and have no medical application.
And in January, the National Institute on Drug Abuse hosted a workshop on psychedelics and therapeutics. And last year, it awarded a $4 million grant to explore the impact of psilocybin on tobacco addiction. That's pretty cool. In addition, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has sought to make it easier to conduct psychedelics research, but those efforts have been rejected by lawmakers. Of course,
there you go. They're using psilocybin from mushrooms to treat tobacco addiction, and we know how deadly tobacco is.
Yeah.
The U.S. had similar psychedelic renaissance once before. LSD was the subject of more than 1,000 scientific articles published between 1950 and 1961, and psychiatrists in North America pioneered the therapeutic use of LSD in the early 1950s.
But the substance became politicized and stigmatized as a dangerous part of 60s counterculture, stifling research and sending psychedelics underground for decades.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
What was once the province of acid heads in Haight-Ashbury has since emerged as a nootropic tool embraced by Silicon Valley tech bros and a potentially lucrative business opportunity for investors. Popular writers such as Michael Pollan and Edith Waldman documented their own use of these compounds, and researchers at New York University and Johns Hopkins were eager to pick up where others left off, creating research and training programs focused on therapeutic use, just as there is now greater attention on mental health.
In a post-pandemic America, we have to address the mental health crisis as thoughtfully as we can with all the options on the table, said Oklahoma State Representative Daniel Pay, a Republican who introduced legislation this year to facilitate psilocybin research in an interview. Do you think all these, they're maybe trying to make people feel better now after the pandemic, and they're allowing them to do a little more?
Yeah, maybe. And here it's a Republican.
Yeah, that really surprised me.
Yeah, that surprises me as well.
That shows you things are changing.
Yeah, exactly. Pay said he was humbled by the bipartisan support for his bill, which the House approved earlier this month. He was inspired by similar legislation passed in Texas last year and is driven by a desire to help veterans. Pay represents a district near the U.S. Army post of Fort Sill and is concerned about the suicide rate among Oklahoma's veterans and is higher than the national average.
And he's not alone. The similar research bills have been introduced by Republican lawmakers in Maryland, Utah, and Missouri. The impact of classic psychedelics such as psilocybin and LSD on the brain differ from other drugs like MDMA. The fMRI imaging of people under the influence of these drugs indicate an impact on the brain's default mode network, which connects different regions of the brain that appear to be involved in one's sense of self and conception of other people. These studies offer clues to how these substances can be therapeutic.
Yeah, veterans have become leading advocates in the push to allow legal access to psilocybin, sharing personal stories about how their own experiences with psychedelics had helped them cope with the trauma of war and help treat their anxiety and depression.
And in Washington State last month, several veterans testified in favor of Solomon's legalization bill, describing the life-saving potential of psychedelic experiences.
Yeah. Eric Gadden, a veteran and nurse, told lawmakers, for a few hours, it takes the blinders off that keep you focused on the scary, painful things that are in front of you. Rather than just masking a system, it allows you to go and look at the cause of the problem and figure out the best way to address that moving forward.
I feel the same way about cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yet it likely will be a while before Washington residents get access to psilocybin. A bill that would direct the state health department to develop a regulatory program to allow adults to use psilocybin therapy services has been tabled. Instead, lawmakers approved a budget that includes $200,000 for researching psilocybin and how to implement a legal program.
Yeah. Well, hey, some money going on there.
Yeah, it's a start.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Solomon says he's hopeful that the work will allow the legislature to move quickly when his legislation is picked up again. He says that we should be ready to roll next session.
There's little organized opposition to these proposals so far. The only people who testified against Sullivan's bill did so because they felt his proposal wasn't broad enough. Not a single public commentator registered any public health concerns, while a litany of medical professionals and researchers talked up the scientific promise of therapeutic psychedelics. I'm really surprised there's nobody that went and spoke against it.
Really? I know. I'm sitting here smiling going, wow, really? Nobody spoke against this?
Yeah, not one person. That's very strange to me, especially in the States.
Yeah. And a Republican one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. Good to see. We'll just finish off that story there now. But it's good to see that more of that's going on. This will lead to more people finding some benefits and more people speaking up and people sharing their stories.
Let's hope so.
And that's how cannabis became legal in Canada, because patients kept speaking up, and
people were getting fed up of getting arrested for doing nothing wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And a psilocybin and a magic mushroom, it's a national plant. Cannabis is a natural plant.
It is.
Yeah. So
Well, mostly.
mostly. Well,
I still have a problem with some of the chemicals they're putting in to grow it.
Well, yeah, okay, that's up to the grower, not giving them organic foods, giving them salts instead.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything you want to mention before we sign off?
Nope.
None.
We covered some good ground today.
All right, good stuff. Other than that, from the Legacy 420 News Desk, thanks to our buds at BMA Hydroponics, Camelford Lifestyle Shop, Dr. Buck CTS, and the Legacy420.com. That's our Reefer report for March the 24th, 2022. And until the next time, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plant. Garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.